Welcome to the amazing world of dinosaurs. I'm Tyler, and this is Anna.
Today is a very special day. We are going to visit a museum devoted entirely to dinosaurs.
That's right. We're going to the Dinosaur Resource Center in Woodland Park, Colorado.
It was founded in 2004 and is widely acclaimed as one of the best dinosaur museums in the whole world.
This brand new museum has all kinds of rare dinosaur bones.
It's time for
A Day at the Museum.
Here we are at the Rocky Mountain Dinosaur Resource Center in Woodland Park, Colorado.
Wow, look at this dinosaur.
Cool, it's so colorful.
Should we go inside and meet our tour guide, Crystal?
Yep, sounds great.
Let's go.
Hi, I'm Crystal.
Hi.
Anna.
I'm Tyler.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
I'm going to be your guide. Now this is what we're going to start with. This is our Albertosaurus. He's related to the famous T-Rex, but he's a lot smaller. On average, he was 25 feet long, and our T-Rex is more like 40 feet long. So he's quite a bit smaller. And we don't actually know what he looked like. First of all, color doesn't fossilize, and soft tissue usually doesn't fossilize. So this is just a best guess. But now we're gonna go look at a dinosaur with a parrot-like beak.
These would have been really cool with like zebra stripes.
Yeah. So you said this dinosaur had a parrot-like beak. What was that all about?
Well, this dinosaur is a conchoraptor, and he is from the oviraptor family of dinosaurs. Dinosaurs in the oviraptor family all had beaks, different types of beaks, and this one just so happens to have a very parrot-looking beak. Some scientists think he may have used that for cracking open things like seashells or snail shells and eating the little animals inside. But he also has very long, thin fingers, and there are other scientists who think he would use those for digging into rotting logs and pulling up grubs to eat. Another neat thing about him is that he's so small. Most of the time when you think of a dinosaur, you think of them as being really, really big. But of course, this dinosaur is very, very small. Most oviraptors were small, with a few exceptions. They're also generally found in Asia.
Well, how does a little dinosaur like this survive from all the predators like T-Rexes?
Well, we weren't there to watch him survive. He might have had camouflage, he might have run away. We have no idea, but he wouldn't have met T-Rex. T-Rex is from North America, so he never would have met T-Rex.
Wow, those first two displays were really cool.
Yeah, we learned that dinosaurs could have had crazy patterns on their skin, like the Albertosaurus.
And that some dinosaurs were really small or had bird-like beaks like that conchoraptor.
Next, we took a look at an even smaller dinosaur, one of the smallest ever.
And then one of the biggest oviraptors ever.
All right, Anna and Tyler, let's come look at this next dinosaur. This one's really interesting.
The Bambi raptor, what's that mean?
Bambiraptor translates to baby thief, probably indicating size.
He doesn't steal babies, right?
Probably not, no. He's related to the more famous Velociraptor, which is also pretty small. And what characterizes dinosaurs of this family is the feet. On the inside toe, you'll see a big claw up in the air like this. We call that a killing claw. And dinosaurs of this family would move in packs. They would jump up onto larger dinosaurs, and with those claws, they would slash at them, and that's how they got dinner.
Scary.
So was he smart?
He is actually one of the smarter dinosaurs. His brain-to-body ratio indicates that he was more intelligent than most other dinosaurs. So if we'll move this way, I want to show you this larger dinosaur. This is our giant new North American oviraptor. It's still being studied. Now earlier I mentioned dinosaurs of the oviraptor family have beaks. You'll notice he has a large beak. But I want to ask you, what do you think he might have eaten?
The Bambi raptor, of course.
Well, they didn't live at the same time, so he might not have specifically eaten Bambiraptor. But do you think maybe he was a meat eater?
Well, he's big like meat eaters, and
Yes, claws.
yeah.
Very good point. He does have claws. He has large, pointy, scary claws like this. And pointy, scary claws are good for slashing and tearing and catching other animals. When you think about it, birds of prey today, like eagles, they have large beaks with no teeth, and they have sharp, scary talons on their feet to catch their prey, and then with their beaks they'd rip up pieces of meat and swallow them. So at the very least, we know he is capable of catching prey. So you can go ahead and look at this.
Ow! That's a little point.
Here it is.
Thank you. Our next dinosaur is going to be this way. This is a very long dinosaur. It's about 30 feet long, and his name is Baryonyx, which means heavy claw. On his first finger, he has very large claws in order to catch slippery fish. And the end of his mouth is also rather jagged, like a crocodile's, which is good for catching slippery fish. So basically, this is a giant, ugly fish eater from Europe.
Europeans always like seafood.
Right, so we're gonna go this way and look at our next dinosaur. This is really special. This is the original skeleton to the only partial skeleton ever found in the entire world of this dinosaur. It's called a Pachycephalosaurus wyomingensis. I'm just gonna call it Pachy or Bonehead for short. And before this skeleton was found, scientists only had a couple skulls to go off of. And the skulls did tell us a little bit. For example, if you look at the cast of our Pachy on the top of his head, you'll notice there's a giant dome of bone. It's about 6 to 8 inches of just solid bone. So originally when scientists just had the skulls, they thought that maybe they rammed heads, like bighorn sheep do today. But turns out, after this skeleton was found, scientists saw that the neck bones were too tiny. They could have broken their necks, and that's not very good for the dinosaur at all. So they came up with a new hypothesis that maybe they rammed their heads into the soft tummies of other dinosaurs. That way they wouldn't have broken their necks, but the other dinosaur would have still been injured. Of course, we weren't actually there to watch him use his head, so we could be wrong, but it's a good hypothesis.
So if we were actually there, how long ago would it have been? What period was this dinosaur around?
Very late Cretaceous. This is 66 million years ago, just before the dinosaurs died.
So right along with the T-Rex?
Yes, he was around about the same time as T-Rex.
And it's partial because some of the bones are missing?
Right, this is about 30% complete, which for a dinosaur skeleton is considered a lucky find. So it's definitely a partially complete skeleton.
Crystal was so awesome. She knew so much about dinosaurs.
She said she's loved dinosaurs ever since she was a kid.
And that learning about dinosaurs is a way that lots of kids get interested in science.
Getting interested in science is really important.
Next, we checked out my favorite dinosaur, a duck-billed dinosaur.
So this is our Edmontosaurus, and he's one of the dinosaurs we call a duck-billed dinosaur. They're technically called hadrosaurs, but we call him that just because his mouth sorta kinda reminds us of a duck's bill. He's not actually related to ducks or duck-billed platypuses, but they're herbivores, and if you look in the back of his mouth, you'll notice he has a whole bunch of little tiny flat black teeth all crammed together back there in his giant mouth. So my question to you now is, how many teeth do you think he could have had in his mouth at one time?
345.
More.
645?
More.
745?
More.
What was it?
About 900 teeth in his mouth. They were tightly packed and they were stacked up on top of each other, and they fit really nicely together like Legos. So if a tooth ever popped off or ground away over time, there was still one right under to take its place.
And this dinosaur could walk on all 4 legs?
He got a choice. He could either walk on all 4s or he could rear up on 2 feet.
Wow.
I know, strange, huh?
And what makes a dinosaur as opposed to just being a reptile like a crocodile or alligator?
Really good question. Dinosaurs have their arms and their legs positioned underneath them. Reptiles tend to have them out to the side. Also, dinosaurs always have curvy necks, and their tails are always at least 1/3 the length of their body. They don't fly in the air, and they do not live in the water.
Wow.
So I want to show you this next thing. This is going to be fun. I want you to guess what you think this is.
A hole.
Kind of close, it's a footprint, but to what dinosaur?
A plant eater?
Possibly. Plant eaters could get very big. It's a long-necked dinosaur of some sort. We can usually not tell what dinosaur specifically laid a footprint because there's no dinosaur at the end of the trackways. But we might get a general idea of this as a type of long-necked dinosaur. Now this footprint above us we think is a T-Rex because it's a very, very large three-toed track, and at the time the largest three-toed dinosaur we know of that was roaming North America was the Tyrannosaurus Rex. But usually we can't tell. But the nice thing about trackways is they give us a nice window into behavior. You might have noticed earlier at the Pachycephalosaurus I said we don't really know for sure what he used his head for because we weren't there. Trackways will give us some indications on behavior. For example, we might find a whole bunch of trackways of one dinosaur or one type of dinosaur moving together. That gives us the idea they might have moved in a pack or they might have moved as a herd.
Well, I'm just confused. How do footprints like this even get made? Like, don't they wash away?
No, that's a really good question. Sometimes they'll wash away, but sometimes the dinosaur will maybe walk into a muddy or soft earth, and the mud or the soft earth will harden and then get covered over. And that'll harden even more over time and fossilize. And then with nature and geologic movement and erosion, one of the layers will erode away, exposing the footprint. Now it could either be an indent, like you would normally find a footprint like this, or that layer might erode away and show something sticking out like this, like the bottom of the foot. And that's how we find footprints, and that's how they're fossilized.
Oh, that's some really scientific stuff.
Yeah. Pretty complicated. But now I'm gonna go show you a real Triceratops skull, so let's come this way.
Wow, this is a big dinosaur head.
Just don't touch it, it's real. This is a real skull to a Triceratops. It's about 7 feet long, which is really big, by the way. That's about the largest we find a Triceratops skull at. And it was found in South Dakota in the 1990s. It lived at the same time as T-Rex. Sometimes we find T-Rexes injured by these things, or sometimes we find these things bitten by T-Rexes. They have holes going right through their bones.
So Triceratops were meat eaters?
No, they're plant eaters. They're
Plant eaters.
herbivores.
Oh.
Yes, their horns we figure were probably for defense. And Triceratops does mean three-horned face. So you can see he has 3 horns on his face.
Did it have a beak?
Yes, he had kind of a beak, teeth further back for shearing plants.
And did they travel in like big groups or packs?
Yes, we think they traveled in herds, really big herds.
My favorite character from Land Before Time was a Triceratops.
Sarah, I remember her. Now altogether, body and all, this Triceratops would have been somewhere between 30 and 35 feet long, if you can imagine that.
Wow. Wow, that's big.
That is our glorious Tyrannosaurus Rex, and his nickname is Stan. So say hello to Stan.
Hi Stan.
Stan is one of the biggest T-Rexes ever found. He is 40 feet long. The largest T-Rex is 42 feet long. But what makes him special is his skull. He was found with the most complete, most well-preserved skull of any T-Rex ever found. And the skull can tell us a lot about an animal. For example, his eyes are positioned in the front of his face, like our eyes. And animals with eyes in the front of their faces have excellent vision. So if you ever hear anyone tell you if you stand still in front of a T-Rex, he can't see you, it's probably not true. He could totally see you. Now, the olfactory chambers in the skull are large, so he probably had an excellent sense of smell. And then there is his mouth. Here I have a T-Rex tooth. Now, we humans only get 2 sets of teeth in our lives. We get our baby teeth, we get our grown-up teeth, and that's it. T-Rex got an endless set of teeth. Whenever he lost a tooth, eventually another one would grow back and take its place over and over and over and over again, as many as he needed for his whole life. And he can bite extraordinarily hard. We find dinosaurs that have been munched up by T-Rex and have holes going straight through their bones. We estimate his bite force to be around 3,000 pounds per square inch. Ours is only like a measly 170 pounds per square inch.
Wow, this tooth could surely eat a steak.
Speaking of steak, on the tooth, you can notice there are some really fine serrations on either side, just like a steak knife. Those were good for biting big chunks of meat and ripping them off. We estimate that he could bite off about 150 pounds of meat in one bite.
So, if he was alive today, would he want to eat us?
Hard to say. We are pretty small. Some scientists debate he might have been a scavenger. Big debate nowadays as to whether he was a predator or whether he was a scavenger. Could have been either, could have been both. But I do have something neat to show you, so if you'll just scoot over a tiny bit. This is a real fossil to a T-Rex, and it's half of the foot bone, not the toe, the foot. And it's a little heavy, so I'm not going to let go of it, but you can feel how heavy it is.
Whoa, Anna, this is heavy. You got to feel it.
Whoa. Of course it's heavy now because it's a fossil. When he was alive, it would have been light, like bone. And on top of that, his bones were hollow. You can see it right there. So that is pretty special. Now, the next part of your tour is going to be in the lab, so I'm going to hand you off to Jacob.
All right, sounds good.
Well, this is the laboratory where we do all the work and where the magic happens. Right now, Dave is working on painting a cast skeleton of an Apatosaurus. I'll show you that a little bit more later. First, I'm going to show you the steps we take to get the bones from the ground in the rock to up there. Now, when we come back from the field, we bring with us what are called field jackets. Out in Montana, where this one's from, we leave the bones actually in the rock. We take a mixture of burlap and plaster and we wrap it around the rock, leave the bones cradled in there, and that supports it on the way back. My next step is to take this, put it inside of what's called a blast box, and clean the bones up, glue them back together, and preserve them for the next step.
So what are we doing here?
All right, well, what I'm doing is I'm taking this, it's called an air scribe, and I'm actually chipping bits of the rock away from the fossils. So right now I've got 3 vertebrae out of the back of this Dinosaur, and there's obviously a lot of rock and gook and stuff on it. I've got glues that I pour into it that I use to secure the bones and to help hold them together for later. So I'll show you how I do that, and then in a few minutes I'll show you something that I worked on earlier and got finished earlier this morning. So these are the bones as they look when we finish the preparation process, when all the rock is cleaned off of them. Got 2 relatively complete vertebrae here. Right here we've got the top of another one, it's missing the bottom. What I've done after I've cleaned everything out and put the glues in it, I've consistently taken a lot of notes, recorded a lot of data on the types of glues and restoration materials, whatever tools I used, so that other scientists can come in and go back and track my progress through this. Now at this stage, these are totally ready to be studied. They're an excellent study specimen at this point. Our next step will be to do the restoration, where we'll go and fill in any cracks and get them ready to mold it. And then from the molds, we'll make copies so that we can put the skeletons together for a display in museums.
Just like the ones we were just looking at.
Yeah.
So, wait, can I?
Absolutely, here, I'll show you.
Ooh, the bones are really heavy. I didn't expect them to be so heavy, Anna.
Yeah, they're just like the other one we saw.
Yeah.
So, how long does it take you to do this?
These, right here, the ones you see, took me about 20 hours of work. Grand total, this entire skeleton will probably take somewhere between 20 and 30,000 man hours.
Wow, so where are we going next?
Next, I'm going to show you that Apatosaurus that you saw as we first came in.
Cool. I'm excited for that one.
Me too.
All right, well, as promised, this is our Apatosaurus skeleton. All said and done, this thing's about 80 feet long. This is one of the biggest things we have in our entire collection. Right now, Dave is actually painting the cast, getting it ready, giving it that last little bit of polish before we're ready to put it on display. So, now that you've seen that, I guess that basically concludes the tour of the lab, unless you guys have any questions that I can answer for you.
Well, after all that we've learned, I guess the only real question is, well, what do young people that want to get into dinosaurs or fossils or behaviors, what should they do?
Well, if you're looking at getting into paleontology, obviously it's a great idea to excel in school, take all your science classes and math and, study really hard and work really hard at that. What I wish somebody had pulled me aside and told me about when I was getting into this was that I also need to know basic carpentry. When we build crates to put the fossils in, I need to know welding so that we can put the steel armatures together for the bones. Nobody ever told me that I needed to be able to change a tire in the worst conditions that I could possibly imagine, you know, and I spend a lot of time camping. I gotta know how to take care of myself in a lot of different situations. So I guess paleontology is something where you gotta know a little bit about everything. So get out in the world and experience it and learn everything you can, because you'll use it sometime.
All right.
Outdoor scientist.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, it's been great having you guys. I'll go ahead and shake your hand now. And
Yeah, we've
thank
learned a
you.
lot.
I'm glad. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for showing us all the amazing things behind fossils.
Anytime.
I can't believe how awesome that was.
Yeah, I learned way more about dinosaurs by being there in person than any book could ever teach me.
Well, that's the amazing world of dinosaurs.
I hope you've enjoyed this fantastic voyage to a world that began hundreds of millions of years ago.
We've learned about meat eaters, plant eaters.
Dinosaur eggs, babies, and how paleontologists find and dig up dinosaur bones.
Today we were able to see a spectacular dinosaur museum.
And a lab where they prepare real dinosaur bones.
We have had an unbelievable time taking you on this prehistoric journey.
Thanks for watching
The amazing world of dinosaurs.
Bye.